Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, that guy from Team Niederdorf, bringing you kind of different video. As you can probably tell from the opening sequence I'll do, because I don't know why I assume I don't put titles on things when I record these videos, I do. This is going to be my top 10 favorite anime of all time. Now, there's be too many honorable mentions and they'll probably get their own video, maybe. Caveat there, maybe. And once I had finally got 10, which was a really hard list to make, because a lot of those honorable mentions could have been swapped in with any of these on here and made it. And once I had the 10, it was really hard to put in a definitive order which I liked more. So these are my top 10 in no real definitive order, because some of these there was just something like I like on the same playing field, and I couldn't do, well, tied for 5th, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shows. So, without any further ado, we're gonna get started with number 10, and this might piss some of you off, and go, you fucking asshole, you don't know anime, that should be higher. Or you have some people going, fucking asshole, you don't know anime, that shouldn't even be on the list, one of the shittiest shows ever made. God, you shonen loving person. Well, since I just gave away as a shonen, it's two anime really, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I put the little caveat for Kai, because Kai is the best way to watch Dragon Ball Z in my opinion. However, I just grew up with Dragon Ball. It was like, okay, not like the first anime I saw, Pokemon was my first one. Pokemon's story doesn't really hold up as well as Dragon Ball's does. Because I recently, if you go back through my videos, I reviewed Dragon Ball, and that was shot after I watched the entire original series, and it gave me a whole new respect for Z, which I started watching Kai after that just because I got a whole new respect for it. Like, all these relationships that were there, you sort of like got built up, and it seemed like a cohesive storyline, which I really liked. So, number 10 is Dragon Ball Z, Kai, whatever you like Dragon Ball Z, I like Dragon Ball Z. And the Boo arc's well, see, the first episode I saw was probably from the Cell Saga, and then I caught Dragon Ball very cluttered, and it wasn't until the games came around that I got, like, how this story fit together. And now that I know how the story fits together and watched it, it's one of my favorite shows, because anyone who knows me knows, like, I can talk Dragon Ball all day. I mean, amount of Team 4-star plug, I mean, it's not just because you guys like it, I like it. I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. Just an amazing show altogether. So, for those of you, I guess it's a good beginner series since I begun with it, but for those of you who like action and decent fun heart story with some heart-griping moments, go watch Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball will probably, especially if you go the Kai route, if you just watch original Dragon Ball, because that doesn't have Kai, which Kai is basically the abridged version that isn't DBZ abridged, it's just a cut down version of Z. Dragon Ball is going to take you longer to watch than the entire story of Z, with caveat being the Boo arc, because after the Boo arc, if you're a dub guy like myself, you have to bust out the old DVDs and watch, and the Boo arc will take you about twice as long as everything else you watch. So, my little grain of salt there. But I love the villains in Dragon Ball. Everyone seems to be well done. I like the story of Goku's just a guy who has to keep breaking limits, and I did like in Dragon Ball that they showed you that he started sort of as a powerhouse as a Saiyan, but even as the Saiyan said, he was a pretty weak Saiyan. Like, he should have had a much easier time on Earth than he did. Especially when his brother came around, he's like, what's wrong with you? Really? Really? Okay, anyway. Number 9, we have Noragami. Now, I've been meaning to review this series, and then I just forgot about it. And until I decided to make this list, I was like, ah, shit. Didn't review Noragami, but Noragami is just a really great show. It was one of those shows I saw trending on Netflix one day, and I was like, oh, I want to watch it. And then saw sub. And I've gotten more relaxed on my dub-only thing, but it was part of that time where I started watching it, where I went, finally, the dub's out, I can watch the show everyone was talking about like a year ago. And it turns out I knew why they were talking about it. Because this show definitely has its lighthearted moments. It's about this guy named Yato, and there's a bunch of other side characters, but the main character is Yato, and he is one of the many gods that are around. And his whole thing is, he's basically like a god of good fortune, if you will. I'm trying to tread lightly on spoilers here. So those of you who want to correct me, I know I'm a little bit wrong. But, you know, he's just basically that guy who'll do any favor for like 5-10 yen or whatever. And it has a lot of its lighthearted moments, but deals with these issues because what the lore of these gods are, you stop existing if people stop praying to you, and he's just trying to get money for his shrine, so people finally start praying to him more. And it deals with this whole how he had to survive to keep his name in people's prayers throughout, and then when he takes on his regalia, Yukine deals with, you know, being in the afterlife, being a teenager, and he sort of approaches things with the teenage mindset of, well, he has this giant breakdown, and he's like constantly hurting his master because the regalia and their master are linked, so whatever bad things the regalia does, it hurts the master. And then eventually, if it gets too bad, you need ablution. So Yukine starts acting out like a teenager does, and he's sort of mad. The thing that really sets him off is when he sees a bunch of teenagers at his school just complaining about what he thinks is stupid shit, and he's just like, it's not fair that I died and they get to live. I want to be like them. And it deals with a lot of these issues that gods and passed on spirits have of, you know, I'm either a god and I'm doing well, or I'm a god that's not getting by so hot. And you see the different mindsets in the hierarchy, and it's just a really good show. So number 9 was Noragami, and after I saw how much time I spent on Dragon Ball, I'm speeding this up a little bit. 8, Durarara, or Duradura as people call it. Now Durarara is one of those shows that I sort of shot in the dark started watching. I was just looking for something to watch and went, you know what? I'm watching Durarara. Especially when I saw the cast that was in it, I'm like, well, I have to see it. And Season 2, Part 3 still going on, so I don't really have a Season 2 review up. Because Season 2 is going to be one of those seasons that goes on forever. Because as it stands right now, the show's at like 50 some odd episodes, and Season 2's like 30 of those at least. So Durarara is one of those stories that takes place in a city, and it makes you seem like it has its... Well, I guess Mikado is technically the protagonist of the story, but it's one of those stories that has so many encompassing characters, and the show spends time with each one of these characters that it doesn't really feel like it has a main character, because you end up seeing Izaya's story, you see Shizu's story, you see Celti's story, you see Mikado's... Ah, shit, what's his... Oh, God, just forgot his name. You see his best friend's story, forgetting at the moment. You see Henri's story, and you see a bunch of other side character stories, and it's just amazing that they spend all this individual time explaining stories. Like, they'll have their own episode arcs, and then you see it all tied together through this interconnected web of how they're connected through the city. Like, oh, well, this person knows this person through this guy, and then they go through... And it's amazing that all these separate stories come together as one. And the big reveal of the show, I was like, oh, what? The big reveal in Season 1 just had me. Like, at that point, I'm like, this... I was already caught in with the story, but I'm like, this is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. Now I just looked over to see what my number 7 is, so if you haven't seen Durarara, go watch it. It's on Hulu. It's on Funimation. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. I'm not entirely sure on that. Noragami, I know for a fact, is on Funimation. I don't know if it's on Hulu. And Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball, you can find those wherever you can find it. They've been around for a while. The number 7 I have is K. In K, well, it's a very short show. I mean, Noragami was like 26 episodes, Durara is at like 50, Dragon Ball's at, depending on your route, like 700 episodes or something. Well, not 700. Maybe like 500-600 episodes. K is a very short 12 or 13 episode show, and each one of the episodes starts with the letter K. Like the episode names. And it's this very, very just beautifully done show that shows these different gangs, if you will, but they're just different king factions, and I can't really explain the lore at the moment, but it follows all of these great stories. You have the Red King, the Blue King, the Silver King, and the Colorless King. And they all sort of want to have their own thing, and they've been there throughout history, and they've each had their, like, underling. And if I'm following things right, I might be hazing some stuff because it's been a while since I watched it, but, like, when they eventually die and pass on and become the next reincarnation of themselves, their underling themselves eventually find each other, and has like a lot of different spiritual-esque powers associated with gods. Obviously, gods seem to be sort of a theme. But the ending of K, I mean, I haven't seen season 2 yet because I just found out there was a season 2, but I thought K was just going to be standalone one-shot anime, and I was pleasantly surprised when I found season 2. But K, its ending, you just like, that was a beautifully ended show. That show was just beautifully ended, and I loved every minute of it. I love the characters, I just love the overall story. So go watch K. I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu. Pretty sure. I mean, I own it, so I don't really have to go, well, if you go over here, you can find it. I'm like, no, I own it. I don't have to worry about not finding it. Now, number 6 is the Studio Madhouse show. For any of you who know Madhouse, that's a really good production company. And this is also a really short series, which I hope gets a season 2 because there is a lot of lore you can explore here. And it's called Death Parade. And it takes place in this place called Quindecum, or focuses on Quindecum. It takes place in the afterlife and what happens when people die. And essentially the premise of the show is Decum, as the arbiter, he looks sort of like a bartender, has to get your memories in him, like both people's memory, because the way Quindecum work is it pits 2 people in there. Like the only 2 people that show up there are people who happen to die in the same moment. So the first episode was a couple who died in a car crash. Then you had one where someone got murdered and they killed themselves, and then another person killed themselves in the same moment. So it's one of these shows where people come into this bar that have died in the same moment, and he has to judge whether they get reincarnated or go to the void, where their soul just sort of stays forever and doesn't get reincarnated. They just go easily explain it, heaven or hell. So the way they sort of test you is after they get their memories, or after Decum gets your memories, or the Arbiter gets your memories, because it's not always Decum. They put you in an extreme situation to see all your sides of yourself, and his human counterpart, who she's really interesting because this isn't really a spoiler or anything, she wakes up, she's the only person that, when she showed up there, she knew she was dead, because when you show up there, they explain the shock of dying is so traumatic that you don't immediately remember that you're dead. So throughout the game, when more stuff's happening, your memories start coming back. And it's just a really cool show. Like, it was beautifully done. There's like a lot of heart-griping moments, obviously dealing with the source material. Like, it's might be a tough show for some of you to watch just because it's so emotionally like packed. But I really hope there's a season 2 because there's a lot of lore there that needs to be explored. So now we're in our top 5. And number 5, it's really painful to me to put it in number 5, is Naruto/Naruto Shippuden. Now, I know the anime's been stuck in filler hell for well over a year now, and I sort of stopped watching the anime, to be honest, but I like the story itself. Like, the original Naruto, I can watch over and over and over again. And when it got to Shippuden, I watch when I want to watch because I sort of try and piece out when the actual story happens, because that's my only gripe with Shippuden, just like it's sort of a gripe with Z. There's a lot of filler arcs that don't need to be there. But Naruto is also one of those animes I found when I was young. It's become so much of a part of who I am and what I talk about. I mean, hell, I got Naruto and Sasuke right there. That it's this high up on the list. I mean, I met my best friend somewhat bonding through this show, and he's my brother. Like, I'm an only child, and I consider him my brother. Like, we bonded over this show. And it's one of those things that's like, dude, you like Naruto? Yeah. Dude, you like Pokemon? Yeah. And it just started like that. So this show's forever, like, in my debt, or I'm forever indebted to the show for helping me find, like, the best person I know. So, Naruto's this nice story about an underdog who, against all odds, rises up to the top. Follows your dream, and you can make it happen. And there was a lot of soul-crushing moments in this show, and the way I just sort of went through the show eventually was I got fed up with all the filler and started just playing the Ninja Storm games. Because I played the Ultimate Ninja games before, but they didn't really tackle the story all that much. But Ultimate Ninja Storm did, especially Shippuden, that's what it really got. And I was like, oh, okay, this put in cohesive thought, because this, again, was one of those shows I sort of sporadically saw and then sporadically read the manga. But I just love the story of Naruto. It's just a great story. Has very relatable characters. If you can't relate with at least one person in Naruto, I don't know who you can relate to. Because they have literally every kind of person. It's sort of what I liked about Durara, and I know Dragon Ball Z does this too. You guys are like, well, Dragon Ball, it focuses on its other characters. It's eventually the story of Gohan. And to that I say you are right. It does eventually become the story of Gohan. Because Dragon Ball is just the story of Goku. But Z, not so much. Side tangent aside, Naruto is just one of the greatest series I've ever seen, and I just really like its story, and how it ended, it's good. Now that we're getting Boruto, which is him passing the torch to the next generation, I sort of liked it because he was around the same age I was when I found the show, so you sort of grew up with him, just like people who love Harry Potter. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like me some Harry Potter, because I was about his age when it came out. So just like Harry Potter, you grew up as they grew up. And that's why I like Naruto. Now, number 4 is the first anime to draw tears from me. And that would be Sword Art Online. Specifically, the end of Sword Art Online 2 is what got me. But Sword Art Online in general is just a great show. Me and my buddy were like, yo, I've been hearing a lot about this. And he's like, yeah, I've heard a lot about this too. And it was, back when Netflix still had Max to suggest stuff for you, and we were like, after we were getting Max tuned down to what we liked, we were like, yeah, let's watch Sword Art Online. And we ended up watching the whole first season, or some people call it 2 seasons, because of the whole split in the middle and they go to a different thing. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see the show. If you've seen the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I call it Season 1. And we ended up watching all of Season 1 through, and we were like, dude, that was legit, that was good. And some of you were like, there's much better VR, MMORPG anime out there, and you're probably right. But to me personally, I love this show. I mean, I love the abridged also, but Kirito's a nice character, Asuna, I like Klein, Shinon's good. I just sort of like the worlds they build in there. Like, the world of Sword Art Online I really liked. And then Sword Art Online turns into basically somewhat of a love story, and then after the love story sort of died down a little bit, it becomes sort of like it addresses world-ish issues. Like, I don't really know how to describe how it turns after that, but it's very much a love story. It has some mystery elements to it. It has a lot of action because it takes place in video games. And it's just a really, really good show. And especially, the premise is something that either grabs you right away or you go, eh. That's what I've noticed when I've showed it to people. It either griped them right away or it just went, no. Okay. So number 3. I'm trying to keep this as short as possible because I have a feeling this is going to probably hit the half-hour mark. Number 3 is Baka and Test. And Baka and Test is my absolute favorite comedy anime ever. Thank you, Aaron, for showing me this. Like, when I first saw it, I thought it was stupid, it was weird. But then I finally went, you know what, I'll give this another shot. Watched it on my own, and I couldn't stop laughing in Season 1. And then when I finally found Season 2, it got funnier to me. The only problem I have with this show, despite the fact I've rewatched it again and again, is that it got canned, so you don't really have a sense of closure with, you know, the love triangle or whatever, which they sorta close off at the end, but the writers or whatever just sorta left it open-ended. And it does have sort of a harem-esque element to it, but not really. It's more of a love triangle. But it's just so funny. I laugh still when I watch it. It's something I'll throw on the background like while I'm editing a video or something. Just so like when I take a break I look, and no matter what's on the screen I generally laugh. Like, the Class F Inquisition. Oh my god. Oh man, so Baka and Test, great humor. I love the characters. Akihisa's amazing. The narrator, especially in the English dub, makes that show. Because he starts as their teacher and then eventually he even points out, I guess I got put to the narrator. I don't do his voice justice right now because I'm all happy and I can't really get down to the humdrum at the moment. But it's so like his voice was so monotone. It's just great. The funny stuff happens, and I want to talk about funny stuff, but that would spoil jokes for you, and I don't want to spoil jokes. Now, in vain of Baka and Test's type of humor, is the more adult version. Slightly more adult version. Like, when I say version, not like these two are related. It's just the humor in these are kind of similar, and High School DxD is number 2. Those of you are like, that's a shitty show! I'm like, fuck you, I love it. If you look past... Granted, this is... High School DxD has a ton of fan service, okay? If you're a dude, you're gonna see a lot of boobs, and a lot of ass, and a lot of clothes being blown off or whatever. You're gonna see a lot of boobs. It just happens. It's definitely a harem anime. However... the lore of High School DxD deals with angels, devils, fallen angels, and at the end of Season 2, they slowly bring in someone from another religion, if you will, like another deity's like religion, and you're like, I hope they go that route. I hope they like go into like, you know, Asgard, the Chinese gods, you know, the gods of misfortune, all of that. And to my surprise, in Season 3, they followed it. Like, you get the people from Asgard, you get, like, Arthur. Like, there's just a lot of cool stuff that happens in this show, and it's one of those shows that, to me, got better and better as it went, because the more you look at the actual story, the more you know, just start going, this is cool. Like, And it does this thing after it brings you through like a heart-wrenching moment or just like a very down, dark moment. The next episode's generally always this happy fluff. We're gonna throw boobs in your face. It's okay. It's okay. Stop being sad. We're throwing boobs at you. I mean, I hate to say it, but they do. They're like, it's okay. Here's comedy. Here's boobs. Here's girls. Here's awkward situations. We're going to make you feel better before we dive into our plot again. And it's just a great show. I've watched it a bunch. Just like I've watched Baka and Test a bunch. I've watched Sword Art Online. At least the first season probably 3 or 4 times. 2 I've only seen once, but I tend to rectify that. Baka and Test I lost count. High School DxD I also lost count. Now we get to our number 1 spot, which I was sort of hesitant to put at number 1, but it's just such a good show that I've seen it like 5-6 times just because I showed it to different friends over and over after watching it on my own. I'm like, no, you need to see this show now. And that is Future Diary. Now, Future Diary is incredible. Granted, not for the faint of heart. Like, it is very gory. There's a lot of action in it. And it's a survival anime. So essentially, the god of time is breaking down. And he needs to find a successor. So, he picks 12 people to get this diary that tells them the future. Now, each one of these diaries are based off different journals they've been keeping. So, like, if one person kept a journal on another person, their diary would just be a full typed out thing of what that person did. So, Yuki, the main character, he had what was called the indiscriminate diary because as a coping thing, since he was a kid that didn't really fit in, he just started taking note of everything around him. And then the ultimate yandere psycho bitch chick in anime ever, but she's still really cool, Yuno, her diary was keeping tabs on him. And then you have 3rd, 4th, Kurisu. You have 9th. 9th should be the main character of this show because next to Yuki and Yuno, she gets about as much development as him. I'm not going to go through all the characters and what their diaries do. If you want to see that, watch the show. But it's a great survival show, and just the way the story is told all the way through to the end is amazing. Like, it takes turns that you don't expect it to take. Some people see it coming from a little bit away, but you know, it's one of those things, just it's really well done. You're like, how are they going to get out of these situations? And it has some heart-wrenching moments almost every other episode. There's just some moments where I'm getting chills just thinking about it. There's just one moment I showed to my buddy. He's just like, dude, I was like, yeah. He's like, no, dude, no. This is one of those scenes that you see unfolding, and then they cut away, and then they cut back to, and you're just like, what? No. Why? They didn't deserve that. Why did you have that happen to them? They've been through enough already. By the way, Yuki gets fucked through this whole show. Life just takes it. Because the amount of shit that happens to him in this show is terrible and no one should go through it. At the same time, I'm glad he went through it because it's one of the best shows I've ever seen, and that's why it's in my number 1 spot. Hesitantly. So, we've been going for about 30 minutes, and I'm going to end it here. If you want any more explanations or want to talk more anime with me, talk with me down in the comments below, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, folks, and we're going to break on 3. 1, 2, 3, break.